I'm Sarah from Peterson Cheese, and today we're going to talk about cutting wheels of cheese for a retail setting. In particular, we're going to talk about pie cuts and cake cuts. The first thing we're going to do today is prep the wheel for cutting. I'm going to begin using a paring knife to cut the plastic off of the cheese. After you've unwrapped the cheese, you want to take a moment to assess the rind and look to see if there's anything that needs brushing or wiping off. I like to use a dry brush sometimes. If you see extra mold, just give it a gentle brushing here. This wheel is looking pretty good, but I will take a dry, clean towel to just gently brush along the outside of it to make sure that there isn't any extra mold growth, secondary mold growth that needs wiping off. Let's clean it up just a little bit here. Have the cleanest, best looking product possible. So today we're going to cut this wheel of cheese into both a cake cut and a pie cut so that you can see the difference and what might work best for your customer. To begin, we're going to bring the cheese over to the wire cutter, center the cheese on the cutter, and then I like to use a knife, a paring knife. You can also use a scoring tool. To cut through the rind to have a nice clean line to cut from. Sometimes when you cut through the wheel of cheese, a little bit of rind does end up on the paste. I always like to clean that little bit of rind off. Okay, so that we're going to start with the cake cut. The cake cut is a tall cut where your final wedge will have the bottom rind, the exterior rind, and the top rind on each wedge. To begin with, I again like to use my paring knife to score. So I'm using my paring knife to score through the label and rind so that when I'm using my wire, it doesn't pull through the paste. I always like to cut through the center first to keep things as even as possible. I bring my wire all the way up to the paste of the cheese, the cut edge here, and then pull through. It's easier to cut through the face or already cut edge so that you don't have to pull through the rind. Cut that in half. So we're gonna cut through. I like to have the nose of the cheese a little bit to the right, as I'm a right-handed person, of the center of the wire. That way I'm not trying to go directly through that point and I have a little extra cheese for the wire to hold on to. So when I cut this quarter, I cut it into 3 separate pieces. If I went any thinner than that, it doesn't give the customer a good piece of cheese. It'll end up with light oxidation and a plasticky flavor on the cheese. One of the other things is I cut straight from the center, which sometimes you see a little bit of a curve that comes through when you do that. Another option would be to trim the nose of the cheese before cutting those wedges. In this case, I'm just going to trim the tip of the cheese, just leaving a little bit that gets cut off so that my customer is getting a nice, solid, straight edge and that it won't bend when you're wrapping it in plastic. Next, we're going to do a pie cut to see other cut options. To do so, we have our tall cheese. I'm going to make sure I have a nice clean surface on the wire here to begin with. We don't want any rind or little cheese crumbs ending up on the paste there. I'm going to take my cheese and put it face down to cut through the center of the cheese. Semicircle separately, or if you hold the 2 wedges together tightly, you can cut them to be exactly the same, top and bottom. Because this is a shorter wheel now, rather than being able to get 6 wedges out of each half, I'm just going to cut 3. I'm gonna score through the rind and paper, looking for a nice third. Right through there. Cut right through there. Then line up your scored mark with the center of your wire, and then pull through. I always like to trim those little rind crumbs off the face of the cheese to keep it looking nice and clean for your customer to have the best looking wedge possible. You can see with the pie cut, you have a shorter but wider wedge. Depending on where your label is going to be placed or what size your label is, this may offer the customer a better looking piece of cheese, a better way to visualize what is behind those labels. The cake cut ends up being a thinner piece. If you need a back label, it might be harder to see. But with the cake cut, you can see the top rind, the bottom rind, and the back rind. Some people also appreciate being able to see the full wedge of what came from the wheel. Thank you for joining us to learn about cake cuts and pie cuts. Please follow Peters & Cheese for more informational videos and product knowledge.